Location CP274, here we go. Might be a slow trip. Look for a stop signal. Signal indication 282 with permission to reverse in the interlocking. One coming west. As soon as we can move this SEI in, we will get you going east for your work.
Hello there, I'm Dave Abeleys, and welcome to Conrail's Onondaga Cutoff. As we're getting into this new series of videos, I wanted to take time for everybody that subscribes and give them their own personal layout tour. Here we are in the foyer. It's the first thing you'd see if you ever came to an operating session with my beloved New York Central here on the photo. But the real action, as we all know, is right downstairs. Let's take a look. Walk around the corner here. We take a look at some of the covers. There's a copy of that book, Guided Signals and Interlockings, put together for signals for all you guys, all you ladies. This is our entrance to the layout. Some various Conrail items, some of the books and articles I've used over the years, some of the stuff I've written. Now we come down to the layout room itself. Here's our railroad. So here we are. This is Onondaga Yard at the top of the hill, the operational center of the railroad, and a good place for us to get started talking about some of the general items. Railroad construction started around 2008, and operating sessions began around 2011, and it helped us bulletproof the track work and figure out where we could make improvements. Also gave us a taste of how much fun was yet to come. And I think that's an important part of model railroading, is that it's an incremental process where every little thing you do is going to let you experience a little more of what's yet to come. And so every piece of it matters, and it really becomes an exciting continuum, part of your life. It's something that's woven into the fabric of what you do on a daily basis. So I think maybe what we'll do is take a look around the railroad. Why don't we go from east to west? So this would be a train that was going from Selkirk to Buffalo, or from Utica to Rochester, or from New York to Chicago. We'll take a look at a westbound train, what they would see, where they would start, everything en route. Here we go. The east end of the Onondaga Cutoff begins at CP274. CP standing for controlled point, and it means a spot where a dispatcher or an operator can control the switches and line signals for routing trains on different paths across the interlocking. The interlocking limits are denoted here on the sign by the gaps, as well as track names. The lights up here are the switches, and then the yellow lights tell you which way the switches are lined for your movement, so you can quote-unquote follow the yellow brick road. The buttons down here will throw the switches when the switchgear is turned on, although normally during an operating session, a dispatcher will control that interlocking. Trains here at CP274 come onto the territory in a west direction. Signs on the fascia help crews identify where they are. And here we can see a westbound autorack train just about ready to head west over the railroad. As you can see, this is a lower deck. Most staging on most big railroads can be on a lower deck, and that helps to extend the length of the run and maximize the amount of territory you're able to model. Westbound trains will climb this hill on the main line tracks to the right here, and they'll come around the Iroquois paper plant, which we see on the left, passing Interstate 481 here. Beautiful scene put together by my friend Jason Warmack and added to the Onondaga Cutoff with New York State signage, etc. Helps put us in the right location. The trains climb the hill and head west up towards CP277. At CP277, the railroad finishes its climb onto the scenic part of the layout, the top level, which we can see here. It's an interlocking with a siding where additional cars are set off for the paper plant, which again we just passed there on the back right-hand side. Trains come past Snook's Pond, and across the grade crossing here at High Bridge Road. And then they head up and around the corner to the west, up towards downtown Fayetteville. The idea of a wraparound layout, a layout that wraps around the walls, either the perimeter of the room or around a big peninsula like the one I built here on the Onondaga Cutoff. The whole idea behind doing that is that you extend the main line run. You don't need really deep scenery to have an effective model railroad from a visual standpoint. And in fact, sometimes you're almost better off having a nice backdrop, a photo backdrop like the one we have here on the Onondaga Cutoff, and blending the scenery into the backdrop. You do the backdrop first and you build out. And the key is that you keep that scene as thin as you can to be convincing, because then it gives you all that extra room for sweeping curves and to wrap things around. And it really helps convey the idea that you're going someplace, right? And that's what railroads do. Railroads don't go in loops. For the most part, they go from point A to point B. And getting that energy, getting that feeling from an operating session is part of the reason we love this wraparound design. And it's another reason why we love the walk-around throttles and the whole digital command control, DCC. Plenty of questions on this stuff, all stuff that we can talk about in the future. So you can always let me know. Drop me an email at onondagacutoff@gmail.com. That's ONONDAGACUTOFF, onondagacutoff@gmail.com. And we can talk about some future ideas for videos. Lots of stuff to discuss. A lot of fun stuff to look forward to. But let's keep going west on our tour here before we get too lost. After passing through Fayetteville proper downtown, again, a scene that's still under construction, we head out to what's become a pretty commonly known scene on the Onondaga Cutoff called the Dairy Farm scene. Another scene designed and constructed with a lot of help from Jason Warmack, complete with a cornfield and a farmer's grade crossing. And then the railroad continues west over what we call the Casanova Industrial Track and an old New York Central Bridge, which was custom built to get us over that wandering branch line with some water. Railroad continues west, and in the foreground here you can see the Casanova Industrial along with Empire Recycling, and back here in the distance you can see Blue Circle Cement Company. Now this brings us to a scene that I love because it's reminiscent of the west end of DeWitt Yard. We're on the east end of Onondaga Yard here with a New York State bridge on a state road up over the top of the main line. Nice little sidewalk from which to watch trains and take pictures. The main line wraps around the Onondaga Engine Facility and then heads west past Onondaga Yard through the home signals on the bracket mast post there on the right, through CP 280 and out into Onondaga proper. Here we are at CP 280 proper, right in downtown Onondaga, New York. And behind us we see Onondaga Engine Facility, loaded with power for locals and Susquehanna's SY1 train. And the maintenance away yard, where we have some equipment for snow fighting, including a Jordan spreader, some snow plows, we have a ballast tamper, local caboose, and some other miscellaneous work equipment. Onondaga Yard here is the center of operations for the Onondaga Cutoff. It's here that trains who have manifest cars for local industries stop and drop the cars or make pickups. We have the yard office. B23-7 number 1931 is the yard switcher today. There's Niagara Propane, which is industry that comes off track in the yard. And right here we have the yardmaster's office. This drawer can pull right out and serve as a platform on which to do paperwork and make sure that everything goes smoothly and can help the yardmaster keep it organized. The yardmaster is an important job, and most of the management jobs on the OC are important because that's how we have a good time together as a group. And talking about operations, I think one of the challenges we have in model railroading is to convey that sense of camaraderie. And one of the fun parts about doing role-playing, it's almost like a role-playing game for people that love trains. So you're talking, you have a couple guys that act as a yard manager and a dispatcher, and maybe there's a train master that hands out the assignments and makes sure that every train has a crew that needs one, the timing of that. And then the rest of it is crews running trains and doing what the paperwork says to do. So you're going to drop these 3 cars, pick up those 5 cars, and then once the yard crew hands that paperwork over to the yard master. The yard master can look through and see which cars go to which tracks for outbound trains. And it's like a puzzle where they can build an outbound train from the cars that came in from other trains. And it's a constant turnover, a constant loop of freight cars, which makes it a lot of fun and helps, because of the rules, it helps really build some of the relationship back and forth that you're modeling. Some of what you're actually modeling is not just the trains, but you're modeling railroading. You know, something we talked about on the podcast, on the Modeler's Life podcast, which is so popular and such a great listen. Some of the stuff I've talked about there before and others have talked about as well is that, you know, we're not modeling any one particular aspect of just the trains. Railroading is an industry. It's an industry with a fascinating dynamic history. It's really changed the way the world works in Western civilization. It's fantastic. So modeling some of that energy is a big part of the reason why operations is so much fun. Up, here we are out here at 282. Let's take a look west. All right, everybody, here we go. Trains will be coming west into CP 282. CP 282 is the west end of Onondaga Yard. Beautiful tower here, assembled by my friend Perry Squire, scratch built from New York Central plans I was able to find through the wonders of the internet. This is the spot where trains that work the yard enter the yard on the west side or exit the yard. It's also the spot where M&E, the Minoa and Euclid trains, will leave Onondaga Yard, cross over the Chicago line, the two main tracks in the foreground here, and then head up their own hill to the west, to the left there. That's how you get down to the M&E. Mainline trains continue straight ahead under the signal bridge and head back down the hill. Over there we can see the city of Syracuse on the backdrop. You can see the Carrier Dome. Some of the administrative buildings of Syracuse University. Lawrence and Hall is the first tall building there in the center of the screen. And then downtown Syracuse to the left, out towards Onondaga Lake and the horizon up towards Lake Ontario. And believe it or not, all the way across there would be Toronto. Westbound trains then slide down to the lower level again here. Once again passing a backdrop of the city of Syracuse. Westbound trains on the double track come down. The island tracks come in for the engine terminal there behind. And that puts us right here at CP 294 on the lower level. CP 294 includes the exit to the island, as you can see there on the top. Another New York Central tower. And then railroads head all the way around here to CP 295 and offline to the west towards Buffalo, towards Chicago, and interchange with the Western railroads. We talked about the island yard briefly, and here's our island yard so that you guys can see what we're talking about. This is the locomotive facility that serves as both the east and west ends of the railroad from a locomotive standpoint. You can also see the dispatcher station here, the train master's desk. And the island yard's a fun spot to talk about. It's a spot where we have locomotives from all over Conrail's system that congregate, again representing Selkirk on the east and Buffalo to the west. So there's constant engine activity here. Consists will run around the layout and be in a different direction so they can lead a train going the other direction with a different leader. A lot like locomotive consists actually did, coming and going for some of those major terminals, either Selkirk near Albany or Frontier out in Buffalo. And it's just a fun spot to sit and look at engines too. There's always a variety here. It reminds you a lot of standing at Selkirk on Ben's Bridge or something up over the yard where you could see all the different locomotives from Conrail, but also some run-through stuff too. It's just an exciting place to hang out. Not to be forgotten is the Minoa and Euclid, the short line for interchange that runs from CP 282 down to Euclid Yard to the south. So their main line branches off at CP 282, climbs the hill, heads down through this rock cut through the woods, across the Skaneateles Creek at the low point, and then climbs back up. Goes around the staircase that we saw on the way down. M&E trains then slide down the hill after going through the tunnel around the staircase and arrive at Euclid Yard. Euclid's the home of their locomotive facility, small classification yard, some private cars, and the Dolger Brewing Company, which is their major source of online traffic. Then their line ends just down to the far side there. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a lot of fun showing you guys around. I'm glad that now you've had a chance to see the lay of the land and see the whole thing in one fell swoop, sort of in the way that a train would see it, from east to west, starting at CP274 and ending up at CP295, along with a run down to Euclid. So you guys can kind of see the whole territory and the grounds over which we run these trains. It's been a lot of fun showing you around. There's a lot of good things left to come. Really excited about the future with this whole idea of a video channel. So looking forward to sharing more with you as time goes on. I'm Dave Abelies. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time on the Onondaga Cutoff.
Light came through my window just before the break of day. Sun-soaked waves now beckon me, so I'll be on my way. On a path that's overgrown. It's a long way back home. I was trapped and lonely, wondering what I'm going through. Waiting for the winds of change to tell me what to do. And the winds of change have blown. It's a long way back home. And so long. And so